So we're here today with Jen, and we're gonna before we dive in, I'll have you introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I'm Jen Hickle, and I am the owner of the VA Academy. So I train virtual assistants and I help match them to creative business owners who just need an extra hand, who need assistance. And I've been in business for over 25 years. I originally owned a music school, and that led me into the world of business owners. And I realized what the number one thing that they need is a VA, because we need to stay in our creative strengths and VAs can help pick up any of those details, the systems, the things that drive us crazy. And so that's what led me to starting the VA Academy.
Great, thank you. I know for a lot of our members, most of us, like me, feel like it's a little bit early to think about hiring a VA, but I think this is going to be a really valuable conversation because it's possible that it's not too early. Or I think there's some questions that we can ask that will help us figure out when the right time is or what we need to be doing now, if there's something we should be doing now to be preparing for that. So I'm really excited to dive into this. It's been tickling kind of the back of my mind, the thought of hiring a VA. It's like, it feels like a luxury that I'd love to get to sometime. But after talking with Jen a little bit more, I'm curious to decide if, that's maybe a sooner than later thing. Um, so we'll just dive into,
Yeah,
what
for
it takes,
sure.
what it looks like to work with a VA. Um, I think I think one of the first, I don't know what the first question would be like, well, how do you know when it's the right time? Maybe that's a good place to start.
Sure. Yeah. It is a really hard decision, I would say. And I would say most people that I talk to almost are pushing away innately. Like our response is, no, 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 and I'm not ready. I don't have enough cash flow. Um, Maybe things aren't organized as much as they should be. And so there's a little bit of panic. So if you feel that, first of all, you're totally normal. Okay. So instead of even asking the question, am I ready for a VA? Because often the answer is you'll never be ready. I'm just going to be honest, because it is a
Okay.
scary thing. I think a better question is, what are you doing currently in your business that brings you energy and joy and life? And then what are you doing that's dragging you down and depleting your energy and your battery? So as creatives, I'm sure you know this feeling of being in the flow, right? When you're in a flow state, everything just feels easy and your output is great and it's like time just melts away, right? And you're just
Mhm.
like almost there's a little bit of euphoria almost. Like it's just flowing out, right? And I don't know about you, but like I kind of chase that state of being, right? Like
Uh-huh.
because it's not always possible. And if you have young kids and like I have 4 kids and I homeschooled them the whole time I was growing my music school. So that was hard because somebody was always, interrupting me, right? And so I would wake up early, even though I was never a morning person, just to chase the ability to have a few hours or even just an
Mm.
hour, right? To get into that flow state.
Yeah.
And so I think with raising kids and homeschooling too, I very quickly had to be like, I'm out of hours. Like, is there anything that somebody else can do? Because I want to stay in my zone of genius. So, one exercise you can do is actually writing down everything that you do for your business and rating it 1 to 10. So, if you love it, you would do it all day long for free if you could. Like, you just long for that flow state, label it a 10. If you really, really like it, but it's not quite there, 9. If you really enjoy it, but, and it kind of comes easily, but you wouldn't say it's your zone of genius, 8, right? Now, as we're getting down to maybe it feels neutral, I would give that a 5. If you're like, man, I don't hate it, I don't love it, I'll give it a 5. When it
Mm.
starts draining you, that's when I would go 4, 3, 2, 1. And like 1 and 2 is like, I hate my life, I can't stand this. Maybe this is a necessary evil of running a business, but like
Mhm.
like personally, I do not want to do bookkeeping at all. Zero, not, nothing. The only reason I like math is when it has to do with a dollar sign. I will figure out math if I'm like, or if I sell this much, I can make this much. But otherwise, like, leave me out of numbers. I would much rather do creative or people or color or whatever, right? So As I think just a great exercise, just grab a notebook and as you're going through your day, your week, your month, because some tasks are only monthly, right? They might even be
Right.
quarterly. Just jot it down. Maybe start a Google Doc, whatever you want to do, and write that number down. What will happen is you'll start to pull apart and diagnose what you wish you could get off your plate. Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe as I say this, several things come to mind, right? And you're just like, I can't stand whatever it is, maybe it's calendar management. You're forgetting to put appointments on the calendar or, um, like I don't know, like all the details, like, even with my kids, like there's just a million things going on, right? So like there's always so much with calendars or even like subscribing to various calendars and like, is it right on my phone versus my computer or am I, in this Google profile or this one? I don't know. It just feels like all these details all the time can weigh us down. Maybe it has to do with emails. Maybe you get into your flow state of creating and you forget to respond to, an inquiry about licensing or somebody got back to you about, listing your materials somewhere or, a connection or something. And you're like, dang it. I can't stand the emails. I've worked with so many creatives over the years and there were business owners that I've coached that were literally sabotaging their business unintentionally because they weren't answering emails, right? So I'm like, girlfriend, you need
Mm-hmm.
a VA. Like, this is ridiculous, right? And so often what happens, instead of saying, like, can I afford a VA? It's more if somebody was taking some of these one, two, three, four items that you rated off your plate, could you make more money,
Yeah.
right? So if you're out of time, if you could buy time, would you make more money? Now, sometimes the answer is no, right? Because we're still building our business. So we're still in those beginning stages and it really is more about really clarifying our product. What are we selling? What's our style? What is, have we found our niche, our voice? And I mean that's how I would word it, right? But it's more of
Yeah.
your
I totally
style,
agree.
right?
Right.
And so sometimes we just have to play around, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
it's just merely practice and output to really discover this is it, this is me. So maybe it's not time for a VA. But once you hit that and you're like, all right, I'm all in, this is my vibe, this is what I'm going for. And if I just had more hours, I could keep creating. Okay, then what could a VA be doing for you?
Right.
Managing your emails, being the first line of kind of in an interception almost of like somebody there, like a butler to answer your front door, right? So I have people reaching out to me all the time about various things. And the communication and booking calls with me or, getting a resource or something, that could take half my day. But instead,
Mm-hmm.
I just go, can you email Rachel? Like I just divert them all to Rachel, right? So
Yeah.
Rachel's been my VA for 10 years.
Okay.
I know she's going to handle it. I know she's going to answer the inquiries. She's going to answer their questions. She's going to get them the right link or the right buy now button or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when people have a million questions, again, is that going to pull me away from the core of my business of what makes me money? Okay, then let her handle it. Because if she's handling it, then I can continue to create more or do my thing so that it'll actually just pay for the VA. So it's not an expense necessarily. It's buying time so you can continue to make more money. All right. So that's
Yeah.
a good question of like, what can you
Mm-hmm.
delegate? What's pulling you down? And then would it allow you to make more money?
Yeah.
So that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned something which I wrote down before we started this recording was how are you making money, and if you had more time, could you make more? And
Exactly.
that was a really helpful way to look at
Yeah,
if it's deciding if it's the right time or not.
exactly.
And then say it, well, which way do we want to go? Say it's not quite the right time.
Yeah.
Well, I think you already touched on that. If it's not the right time, it's likely that you're still working on your product
Hmm.
or your
Hmm.
style and figuring out what it is you have to sell.
Hmm.
So at
Hmm.
that point, that's really where your focus needs to be, I would say, rather
Yeah.
than my thought first was, oh, if I'm not ready, then I need to be making sure I'm setting up systems so that when it's time,
Yeah.
I can hand it off. But I think no, the work to be doing now, if it's not time, is just the artwork, like the
Yes,
style, figuring
exactly.
out your product, trial
That's
and
right.
error on that, because really nobody else can do that.
That's
It's
right.
it's all you.
That's right. And organization and systematizing will kill creativity. So
Hmm.
when I'm in the mode of creating something new, I can't stop to organize it or I will lose the momentum I have. So
That makes
I've had to tell myself, now I am an organized person. Like I like things neat, right? I like a clean aesthetic. And so
hmm
it's also weird, and maybe you guys can relate, that it's like I need to make a mess, but at the same time I can't think if it's a mess, right?
yes,
So it's like,
exactly.
okay, so to some degree, say I'm gonna make a meal for my family. I can't think in a messy kitchen. So
Right.
the first thing I'm going to do, right, is like unload the dishwasher, load it, clean the counters before I can start. Okay? So there's truth to
Hmm.
that. But if you're in the middle of creating, it is not time to go, "Oh, I should really organize this so when a VA gets here, it'll look better." Like, "Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
embarrassed," right? Because it's almost like we're in the flow state and then we almost like stop and go, oh my gosh, this is a disaster, right? When you look up from working and you realize what a mess you've made. That used to happen
Yeah.
with homeschooling too. Like we'd be doing all these, activities and assignments and it'd be lunchtime and I'm like, oh my gosh, my house blew up, right? It's like a bomb went off, right?
Right.
So of course there's a time to stop and organize that, but I would really encourage you, don't stress about the systems and creating processes for the VA's sake. They actually are wired to do that. It would be better to bring them in and go, look at the mess. They get giddy. Okay. I've heard house cleaners say that it's so much more rewarding to come into a super messy house because the before and after is so satisfying,
Yeah.
right? So I have a house cleaner. That's one of the things I've outsourced in the beginning because it was like, okay, could I work on my business if I didn't have to clean the bathroom? So I just started once a month. I would hire a house cleaner and it made such a huge difference. So there's little things you can start to outsource even
Yeah.
before a VA, right? I only get groceries delivered. I won't step into a store. It derails me, it overwhelms me. I get distracted, right?
Hmm.
And so it's much better if I can be like, reorder, reorder. Now my husband will go to the store. It doesn't bother him at all. So fine, I'll
Yeah.
send him. I think it's the new era of like hunter gatherer. Like send the men to the store, okay? They can go conquer it. That's my new thought. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, my house cleaner when she comes, even though I'm tempted to like not show her my mess, like I'm embarrassed, right? Like, oh my goodness, my bathroom is such a mess. They
Yeah.
delight in it. It's the same with a VA. Their
Okay.
brain is wired for systems and details, and they also have access to tools that maybe you don't even know exist. Okay. So they're going to have solutions for you that you don't even have to go research them. So when you even just first start talking to a VA, if you just explain, this is what's draining me, this is what's frustrating me, this is what's taking too much time, they will often, their brain will light up and go, oh, well, we could use Google Docs. We could do this shared, we could do Dropbox. We could use Zapier and connect this and that.
Hmm.
And you're going to watch them geek out and you're like, okay, nerd. Yep, they are. That's what they love, though. They love nerding out. So we can let them do that. All right.
Okay.
Plus, it's going to take them a fraction of a time. So often people will say to me, Jen, I cannot afford a VA. I know that it takes me 5 hours to do my newsletter. And if you're building an email list, let's say, for example, right?
Right.
And I'll say, oh my goodness, it will not take a VA 5 hours. You will be shocked how fast they will come back to you and go, okay, done. Okay, done. In
Okay.
fact, sometimes that's a different level of stress because you delegated all the stuff, you go back to creating and in your flow state, and suddenly they're like, done, done. And you're like, shoot, crap, like I have to have
Not
something
ready.
else to delegate to you, right? So it's
Hmm.
okay. Just know they're super fast. And that's why I really recommend buying a chunk of hours per week or per month. And they know they're gonna make X amount. So let's just say you want 5 hours a week. That's, let's say their number is okay, here I go. Here's math. Let's say it's $30 an hour. So then that would be 30 times 3 times 5 is 150. So $150 a week, right? So in a month, that's probably going to be $600. Okay, that sounds like a lot. I get it. But
Hmm.
if they know that they're going to make $600, okay, they're set on it, then you can just throw them whatever tasks and then they manage their time and they will tell
Okay.
you, this is how many hours I have left. This is what I've done for you. Because you may think, oh, this thing is going to take 5 hours, and it
Hmm.
doesn't. Then that opens your brain to go, what else could I give them?
Ooh.
Right? And so then you get to start brainstorming. And also, when you start that relationship, there's a huge element of trust, right? So if you've got kids, it's like hiring a babysitter for the first time, right? Terrifying. You don't want to leave your
Hmm.
baby with this babysitter, even if it's grandma, right? Like it's
Yeah.
scary, right? And I think sometimes maybe even grandma is less scary because you've seen grandma interact with your baby, right? You've
Right.
been observing this. So there's confidence to know, all right, grandma's got this, plus grandma's got experience. I have my first grandbaby.
Hmm.
It is the best thing in the whole world. And it is great to lean on almost 30 years of experience, right? Like I know what I'm doing. And so
Hmm.
my daughter-in-law is confident leaving her baby with me. So what you want to do when you first hire a VA is just give them one project. Give them one mess. Okay? Maybe it's your Canva account. And dude, nothing's labeled and it is just a hot mess. You have no folders. It's okay. Let them organize it, right? Let them organize it
Hmm.
because you'll be able to see what they did,
Yeah.
right? You have full transparency. And so often I'll just start with one project, make sure they did a good job. This is the equivalent of even having like a mother's helper in your home. When maybe you're working in the other room, they're watching your kids, you can hear what's going on. You can know if your
Right.
kid's crying, right? You want to have full transparency. So don't give away parts of your business to a VA, or I should rather say, you don't have to give away parts of your business where you can't see anything. No, no, no.
Yeah.
You should see the end result. So, say they're going to help you with some of your social media posts. I don't know if that's a need of your members, but if they are, they're going to go create them. You're going to approve them. Don't
Yeah.
just have them post for you, right? You're going to
Hmm.
approve the posts and then you're going to see how they perform. So lots of transparency, start slow, build that trust. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You just try the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's going to be a good fit, just like a babysitter, right? Maybe it
Right.
seems
Yeah.
great. You have this interview, and then your kids are just like, they were weird, or she was on her phone, or, so it's like, all right, next
Yeah.
one up,
Yeah.
right? And there's so much in personality styles or communication styles that you're not going to know until you work together. So you don't have
Yeah.
to sign a long contract, right? Just do a trial period. They
Yeah.
want to know if they like you, you want to know if you like them, but you
Right.
don't have to be ready and organized before hiring a VA or you'll never be ready.
I
It's
think
not
that's
possible.
probably the most encouraging thing to me because I've considered it in the future. My thought is always I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Um, but thinking about I don't even know how some of my back end stuff is set up sometimes.
Sure.
Like it would take me a day to go
Yeah.
in and figure it out.
Yeah.
So I need to do that. I need to
No,
figure it out before I can bring somebody in. But you're telling me that
you don't.
they can figure it out,
They can figure it out. They
which for
love
them,
the back end stuff. They love the tech. They love, you know, permissions and how is this set up. They geek
yeah,
out about it, right? So that's why it's really important to identify what are you really good at? What are your tens? You probably
yeah,
do things they could never do. They're going to be in awe of you. You're going to be in awe of them. And that's what makes a really great partnership.
yeah.
And there's ways to do that too. When you say like, I don't even know how the back end set up, get on Zoom, share your screen, right?
Okay,
Or
yeah,
if you have a platform that allows admin access, you can set them up as a user, but not
hmm,
give them full permission to see everything, right? If you have a
right,
WordPress site, it's very easy to go back and restore. So if they do something and you didn't like it, you can there's a
hmm,
there's essentially backup stored of your website. So like I've messed up my website before, okay? And my husband is an expert at WordPress. We own a marketing agency as well, and my son works for us. And I've been like,
Okay.
Elias, I messed this up. And he goes in, da, 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 and he restores to the last edit. I was
Oh
like, oh,
wow.
back.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, right? I didn't even know that was possible. But again, these VAs, they'll know things like that. Like they create a safety net, essentially.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So there's ways to give them admin access so they don't see everything, or there's ways to restore things if you messed it up or if they messed it up. It
Yeah.
just that adds some safety, right?
Yeah.
So that can
That's
help,
excellent.
yeah, bring some
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah. That and giving them one project. I like how
One project.
starting with
Yep,
that and starting with something where you have some eyes on what they're doing. That
absolutely.
sounds like a really good plan. And you
Yes.
have a process for matching a
Yes.
VA with, or a creative with a VA, or a
Yeah.
few, right?
Yep.
To Can you
Exactly.
share
Yeah.
a little bit
So
about that?
I think this was born, well, I think it's how I'm wired, to be honest, because when I started my music school, I was teaching piano lessons. But then I started hiring teachers because I realized I loved the admin. So I'm a creative, I'm a musician, but I'm also that geek nerd that I really like admin and I don't know. It was a surprise to me. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't know I was gonna like this, writing down all my students' names and checking it off when they paid me and, managing the
Oh,
calendar and sending a newsletter. I was like, okay,
good
well,
for
I
you.
I didn't know I was gonna like this. So that allowed me to hire other musicians who didn't want to do those parts,
Mm,
right? They
yeah.
didn't want to deal with the billing and the scheduling. And
Yeah. They
so
just want to teach.
parents would contact me and I'd match them to a teacher. So
Okay.
as time went on, the same thing has happened with the VAs. People come to me, they say, I need a VA, and I match them to a VA. And how we do that is you fill out a form, you tell me all about your business, you tell me what's driving you crazy, what you need help with, what platforms you use already. And then I post it to my membership of VAs and I say, hey, who has hours? Who's looking for new clients?
Hmm.
And does this interest you? Because a lot of it, you want them to really be jazzed about your business. It needs to be a good fit, right? That they're really interested in what you're doing. And so
Yeah.
in my group, they kind of raise their hand. I'm interested. I'm interested. But you'll get a lot of response. So how do you sort through that? So then, because I know them all, I coach them all, I've vetted them, I know where they're at, I've checked their work. I make them jump through lots of hoops. Okay. So you can be confident that you're not just finding this random person. Also, I think people think of VAs as overseas, but I think it's way more advantageous to have an English speaking stateside VA who is more like your business associate. A VA
Okay.
overseas is really good for a very specific task, and you tell them exactly what you want done, and they'll do it. And it's
Okay.
cheap. But if you need somebody who can flow with your creativity and handle your hot mess and you can even brain dump and tell them your
Yeah.
ideas and help them kind of translate like how that can happen, it's going
Hmm.
to be really hard with the language barrier and the time zone difference. So if you
Okay.
have somebody who understands your business, is passionate about your business, understands your ideas and you can bounce those off of them, you're going to pay more. You're going to pay between
Hmm.
25 to $30 an hour, but you're
Okay.
getting so much more, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So once I get that list of people that are interested, then I sort through them and I give you my top 3 recommendations.
Okay.
I'm not in the middle. I don't take a cut. There's nothing like that. It's just a service because it benefits them, it benefits you. So then your job is to book a call with them, talk to them, get on Zoom, whatever it is,
Hmm.
and just brain dump. Just tell them. Tell
Okay.
them what you're doing, tell them your goals, tell them what you want to do, and tell them what you need help with. Then
Right.
listen, okay? Because
Yeah.
then they're going to be able to say, this isn't for me, or I'd love to help.
Mhm.
Here's what I'm
Okay.
thinking. They will also help you narrow down. Okay, you told me all this stuff. That's awesome. I'm hearing one priority is that there's
Oh.
your website's really messed up or whatever it is,
Hmm.
right? And like maybe that is stopping all the other things. So
That
they,
would be helpful.
right? Because sometimes it's hard when we're in the middle of the mess to
Yeah.
prioritize like what do we even do first?
Right.
But I would say the VAs in my program have that ability to prioritize and to kind of
Okay.
pick out, like, I know I can help you with this. Let's start here.
Okay.
And that way it gives you a chance to kind of try it out, right? And
Yeah.
see. Now, once you try out a project, you're going to want to pay attention to their communication style, right? How available are they? Do they get back to you right away? Or do they henpeck you to death with questions, right? And it drives you insane. Because as
Mm-hmm.
creatives, we need somebody who's intuitive, who understands the words we're saying and what we're not saying. Because
Yeah.
we often, not always, but we often as creatives um, are doing that big picture, wide swath of ideas. And I'm sure you
Mm-hmm.
guys have all felt this when somebody looks at you like, are you an alien? Right? And you realize you lost them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we think differently, or we're seeing it very clearly in our head, but it's hard to
Yeah.
translate in words, right? So if that
Right.
VA is totally lost or not understanding what you need or moving too slowly or needing to know every step, and you're like, for the love, would you just go do it and then show me what you did? Very quickly you'll know
Yeah.
person drive me nuts, right? And if they're driving you nuts, that's okay. Try the next one on the list, right? It's not
Okay.
that having a VA didn't work. It's more likely it's not the right fit for
Right.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And really, so many VAs are very detail oriented, very systematized. But when you are super creative, you're going to need somebody more adaptable and able to flow with you. Okay. Because you're speaking different languages and you're going to butt heads if they're trying to systematize you too much. To
Okay.
be creative, we've got to be able to change our mind, test things, try it
Mm-hmm.
out, and revamp it. And you need a VA who can just flow with you. Yep, got
Yeah.
it, girl, no problem. And can be that support for you.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have thought, oh, I need somebody very organized. But I think, yeah,
Yeah.
having a little more similarity
Yeah. And it's not that
in
they're
your
not
styles is
organized.
important.
They
No,
just
no, no.
need to,
Yeah.
right? They are organized, but you don't want I call it high, high, low, because there's a Colby assessment that I really recommend you do, which helps you know how you work, and then it'll help you know who to hire. But in the Colby, if you're in the 8 or 9 range for details and systems, it's not going to work for
Mhm.
a creative. They should assist an accountant. Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. When you put it that way, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Like
Yeah.
they are wired to help. My husband is super organized and he does SEO, right? Like he has a lot of details that he is not
Hmm.
creative, right? His brain works differently. So in my
Yeah.
program, I tell the VAs, here's who you should work with, here's what you shouldn't.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
probably if you request a match through me, I'm going to do a good job of giving you somebody who can flow with you. But if
Yeah.
you just go find, a random VA or your business friend said, my VA is awesome, you should talk to her, these are the things you could run into, right? And you're like, so I just don't want you to think there's something wrong with you. You
Yeah.
don't need to change. You need to change the person who's working for you.
Okay.
Okay? They need to be able
Yeah.
to share your brain and understand you. That's
Hmm.
what's allow your business, like they need to go with you so you can go faster. You don't want a VA to slow you down, right? They want to like empower you. So a good example too, like say you're going to go on a bike ride, right? Like, oh, wind flowing through your hair feels so good. You're on that path, up and down hills. Okay, but there was a recent storm. And now there's little branches and twigs in the road. Every single time you got to get off your bike, you got to go pick up those sticks, right? That's very frustrating because you're out of that flow. You've got to stop. The right VA will clear that path for you. They're removing the twigs so that you can just flow,
Okay.
so you can do the creative parts
Yeah.
or the reaching out to different people or making connections or whatever it is, right? Or being with your kids, being with your family, because
Mhm.
the bigger your business grows, there's just going to be bills to pay and bookkeeping and invoices and details. And a lot of times artists say, I guess I'm not cut out to be a business owner. I guess I can't do
Yeah.
this.
Oh, I've
And when
thought
I,
that a lot lately.
what was that? Say that again.
I've thought that a lot lately.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about this.
Yes, and that's not true. It's just you need the right support. Okay?
Right.
Because we can go further when we have a team. There's only so far we can go alone. Because I think too, what happens with creatives is we don't like complex and um, complicated.
Hmm.
Again, it weighs us down. So the
Yeah.
bigger my businesses have gotten, I'm like, this isn't even fun anymore, right? Like, I don't even like this. Okay,
Right.
the business might not be the problem. It's just that you need a more I like to call it a left brain buddy. Okay, so if we're right brained, we need somebody who can think in columns and organization and strategy, and together you can scale and grow. There's only so far you can take any business alone. But then if you've got a concept, if you know you've got something and you're making money,
Hmm.
then you can scale it. So again, there's a right time, right? So if you're just making a mess in the kitchen, you're just figuring it out, that's fine. But
Yeah.
once you've got something systematized, like maybe you're even making sales on Etsy or something, but my goodness, all the messages, they're bogging you down. People have got questions. They maybe if you've got downloads, they can't access their download, and you're like, just shoot me now, right? Like it's not fun anymore. Nope, just have a
Yeah.
VA handle that.
Okay.
Okay. And then when you have that portion of your business handled, it will be fun again. And then you
Yeah.
can continue to grow and expand.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel like that right there kind of just sums it up.
Good, good. I'm so glad. Yeah, I love, I mean, I get so nerdy and passionate about this because I believe in this and I've seen it help so many different types of creatives.
Yeah.
I love creatives so much. I don't know if you know about Myers-Briggs, but I'm an INFJ. My favorite people are ENFPs, INFPs. They're very creative, right? My sister's
Hmm.
an ISFP, so she's very design oriented and my world is filled with this. My parents own a theater company. Like my
Wow.
kids are all creative. So this has been my world, and I see the points of disappointment or being discouraged, right? And I see the
Yeah.
walls they hit, and
Hmm.
just in the last probably 15 years of coaching, I kept realizing you just need a VA. You just need a VA. I said this so many times that I finally was like, all right, everybody, time out. I'm gonna go train them.
Go
Because
get your VAs.
then, yeah, because I now know what business owners need.
Yeah.
So I was able to take it and train the VAs versus I'm not just a VA who now teaches VAs. I'm
Hmm.
coming from the world of creatives and going, here's what you need to know about them. Here's how their brain
Okay. Yeah.
works. Here's how to deal with them. Here's how to communicate with them. Here's how to have empathy for them. And so they're
Yeah.
ready. They're ready to deal with and work with creatives. And if they shouldn't work with creatives, I tell them that. So they won't raise their hand for that
Yeah.
match. Okay. They'll be like, nope,
Also
not my
important.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
This
my,
is super
yeah.
helpful because oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, honestly, I've kind of looked at having a VA as sort of a luxury, like an
Sure.
eventual, I'd love to get to a
Sure.
point where I can have it. This conversation is making me realize that it's maybe not really, I mean, yes, it
Yeah.
is a luxury in a
Yeah.
way, but it's more so a way to be able to do more of the things that I
Exactly.
love to do
That's
in
right.
order to make the money, in
That's
order
right.
to make my business simpler, in order to actually enjoy what I'm doing all the
Exactly. Yeah,
time.
I really agree. I think it's not so much a luxury as much as it's an essential. If you really
Yeah.
want to grow and expand your business, I think there's only so far you can take it alone, right?
Hmm.
And you're going to deal with the frustration. Where if you have this buddy, and it doesn't have to be many hours, I mean, you can start even lower, start 5 hours a month, right? Just start small,
Okay.
build that relationship, right? Just find somebody that you enjoy working
Yeah.
with. It's almost like having, again, that babysitter, like just have a list of babysitters on
Hmm.
your bench, right? You don't even have to,
Yeah.
you don't have to have a nanny or a daycare, but who do you call when you do need a babysitter? It's the same. You can have like a
Oh,
handful of VAs.
good
You could
point.
have, graphic design VA, you could have a bookkeeper, you could have many people, but it does take time to interview them, get to know them. How does this work,
Yeah.
right? So I would say definitely start the process I mean, we're never ready, but definitely before you think
Yeah.
you're ready. Just at least start the
Okay.
conversation, right? That way, when you're like, whoa, I got this big contract or I got this big order or whatever it is,
Mhm.
you can grab
That's
them
a good point.
and
Yeah.
you already have them, right? Because you don't want to start at zero then. Like,
Yeah.
when you're ready to hire is not the time to now,
Yeah.
go find somebody, right?
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
if you're wondering like, oh, maybe is it time? I don't know. At least, I mean, the conversations are free, right?
Yeah.
Just talk to them and
Okay.
just see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And the idea of starting really small. Wasn't sure if I should ask if there are
Yeah.
minimum. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure some people would have minimums, but
Yeah.
like you said, 5 hours a month. That
You sure
seems
can. It's up
pretty
to the VA, so just asking
ridiculous.
them, right?
Yeah,
But often they will have clients who maybe are more hours, and then they'll fill in the empty spaces
yeah,
with the random
yeah.
ones. So if
Okay.
they say yes, great. You know,
Yeah,
it's just if you need to then scale them, do they have the time to
right.
scale?
Yeah.
But don't worry about that, right?
But
Just
hopefully by then you'd
start
have a
small.
relationship and could have
Yes,
those
exactly.
conversations when you need to, or they
And
can mentor
and
you
things
if you
are
need.
changing, and so maybe they have time open up, right? Maybe a client moves on and then you have that relationship, so you're kind of next in line and you
Yeah.
say, I'm really ready to scale this. Can you do more? And they're like, "Oh, I just
Mhm.
had somebody quit," like, "Yes, I can. I can say yes to
Yeah.
you now." So yeah, I think it's just worth establishing, a connection or two, talking to them.
Yeah.
Plus, it will give you, I think it's a good experience to even sit down and talk about your business, right? Just get it out of your head. So some of those
Yes.
conversations with a VA, like having to explain it, having to
Yeah.
share, like this is what I do or this is what frustrates me, there's clarity that comes with that in just
That's
talking
so
about it.
true.
Yeah, get it out of
Yeah.
your head. Yeah.
Well, I think we covered all of my questions, the ones that I didn't know I had until just now.
Yeah, I'm so
So,
glad.
thank you so much. And then for those in my membership and not beyond that want to learn more from you about you,
Yeah.
where could they do that?
Yeah, the best place is to go to jenhickle.com. So just
Okay.
Hickle, like pickle, Hickle, .com. And on there, you'll see
Okay.
about my academy, but at the bottom, it says hire a VA. So that's the
Okay.
best place to go. It's all the info. Again, it's free to request a match. We'll put
Okay.
it out there. I'll give you some recommendations. Also, I just have a directory. So you can just peruse the directory yourself
Oh,
if you want to. So you don't
okay.
have to request a match if you're not quite ready. You can at least just
Yeah.
go see, click on their websites. You can reach out directly to them,
Okay.
and maybe, that's even helpful just to see what types of VAs, are
Mm,
out there, what do they
yeah.
do? Um,
Okay.
Kind of give you a big overview. Yeah, it could be just
Yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah. But you said that at the bottom, that's where you would go through all of, and it would ask all the questions about,
Yes.
like, say I
Yep.
made it my business. Okay.
Yep. So it's jenhickle.com/hire, but that's also just, you can find it on
Yeah.
jenhickle.com if you just need a shorter link to remember. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You
This has
are
been
so
really
welcome.
eye-opening because honestly, I feel like VA, yeah, we hear that word a
Yeah.
lot, the not word, the acronym.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, cool, that'd be great, but I don't know what that means
Yeah.
for
Right?
me
I know.
specifically.
It feels very mysterious and big and ominous.
Yeah, and like, oh, that's what the people way beyond me do, but not me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but now I'm curious to see if
Yeah.
maybe that is something I do, and maybe for my members, if not now, at least some point in the future, having a
Mhm.
conversation. Because
Exactly.
this is a great place to start to
I
answer some
love
of these
it. I love
questions.
it. Yes, and I would love to help you with a match. I think you're in a great place for it. And again, you can scale your VA as you scale your business. So
Yeah,
it's very
that's
helpful to think of it that way. Again, you don't have
yeah.
to be ready, you don't have to be super further along. Just get some help and then see,
Yeah,
it should help you grow, right?
I
And
can
yeah.
through this conversation. There's things coming to mind. Like maybe a
Good.
band off. That would be
Good.
amazing
Yes, right? Oh,
for
I'm so glad.
sure.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
so glad. All right. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today.